we do know that his return to Australia was really to take the manslaughter plea deal instead of actually facing the evidence before a jury and facing the charge of murder.
You have seen tonight's top stories, but here's the best of the rest. First up, Gabe Watson, a.k.a. the honeymoon killer. He's back on U.S. soil and in the custody of police 7 years after allegedly murdering his wife of just 11 days. Watson's attorney, Brett Bloomston, says that he paid his dues by serving time for involuntary manslaughter in Australia.
It's absolutely ludicrous. Why would anyone travel halfway across the world and take their young bride of 11 days scuba diving to kill her in front of 60 other divers in water that's got 100-foot visibility for a measly sum of life insurance that he wasn't even the beneficiary? She had a small policy at her place of employment that her father was the beneficiary of, not Gabe.
But the Alabama Attorney General has some concerns. All right, Keith, I got to ask you, how unusual is it that it would be the state attorney general bringing this case, if it's brought?
This is the rarest case I've ever seen by an attorney general's office. Traditionally, they bring cases on behalf of the state as a whole for civil wrongs or for, if it's a criminal case, for type of fraud that has a wide-reaching address on their citizens. This is the only time, I've done a lot of research on this, I can find no other case where a state's attorney general is prosecuting one individual for one crime that was committed, keep in mind, committed in a foreign land. Unheard of, unprecedented.
I mean, Joey, he served his time in Australia. Is the case closed?
He did. I'll take the opposite point of view of Keith then. The fact is that there's a compelling interest in this case here, and there is dual jurisdiction. In that, Shannon, what happens is, for two bases. The one basis is that although it happened on foreign ground, we here in the United States, there's a belief that the plot was hatched here, and that would give jurisdiction, in addition to which he's an American citizen, so that gives jurisdiction as well. The American government does not feel, particularly Alabama, that the actual result in this case was satisfactory enough, and as a result of that, they're taking jurisdiction and going to prosecute it and put our notion of justice on this case. 18 months is just not enough for a murder of your wife, period.
All right. How well do you think this prosecution will proceed? How successful do you think it'll be, Keith?
I don't think it'll be successful at all. I think it'll be thrown out on procedural grounds. To begin with, the due process clause of the U.S. Constitution states that if the prosecutor has information and evidence that a crime was committed and they can identify who the perpetrator of that crime was, they owe it to the defendant to bring that crime in a timely manner. Here, they've waited 7 years, and the defendant is clearly prejudiced in order to bring a defense on his behalf.
All right, we'll watch and see how that case plays out. Let's move now to Italy, where Amanda Knox, we all remember this name, she's back in court, and this time she's appealing her murder conviction and her 26-year sentence. Joey, I got to ask you, considering that the Italian courts have now charged her with slander, and this has to do with allegations that she made about the police and how they treated her while she was in their custody, is that going to have any impact on the separate murder case that she's now appealing?
No, one thing is not, related to the other, but what happened, Shannon, it's unbelievable. She was indicted for slander based upon her indication of how the police treated her. That's outrageous. What's going to happen here is they're going to examine this appeal. They're going to examine whether or not she was afforded a fair trial. Clearly, there was anti-American sentiment that was involved. It was clear that they wanted a scapegoat. The press covered this case, and she was deemed guilty before she even got a trial, Shannon. I think that the lawyers here have a great shot of reversing this case. They're going to go before the judge. They're going to go before the panel of jurors, 5 women, 1 man, and what's ultimately going to happen is she's going to be given, it's going to be reversed, and she's going to come home.
Keith, how different is the appellate system in Italy versus what we understand and what we know here in the U.S.?
Dramatically different. In fact, in Italy, there's a saying that you're not convicted of guilt until the appellate court says that you're guilty. There is a 50% success rate of reversal on appeals. In the United States, there's a 5% chance. And in New York State, where we are now on set, there's a 1% chance. So this battle isn't over. It's a very distant system. She's going to face a 6-judge appellate panel with 3 citizen jurors who will sit in judgment as well. And they have the ability to review not just the law as we do in this country, but also the facts and to convict her again. And I suspect, I'm going to hedge my bets, that what's going to happen here is they will find her guilty of a lesser crime, deem it time served, and extradite her back to the United States.
Joey, how much has this sort of celebrity status that she's achieved impacted the case for her, for better or for worse?
You know what, Shannon? I think it's impacted for better. Why? Because now it draws attention. And when you shine light upon something, you sometimes see things that run amiss. And in this case, when you have forensic evidence that's inconsistent, when there's information that she gave the police and they're examining exactly what her guilt was, I think at this particular time, Shannon, it helps her greatly. There's a lot of focus on this case. I think the focus does her a lot of good. Ultimately, the appellate court will review and evaluate that evidence. I think it comes out in her favor. I think she comes home.
All right, Joey, Keith, thank you both very much. Have a great weekend.
Pleasure. You too, Shannon.
You too.
All right, still.